Well, let's talk a bit then about Raisi, his legacy, and what perhaps is next now for Iran. Simon Mabon joins me live. He's a lecturer in Middle Eastern Studies at the University of Lancaster. Welcome to the programme, sir. First of all, do we have any sense at this stage as to who might replace Raisi as president and what direction they'll take Iran?
So, two questions. The first one is the tricky one in terms of who can the regime get to stand that can generate the type of social and political capital that it needs. And I think that's going to be really difficult in light of the electoral and the political challenges that Iran has been facing. It's got these huge social and economic challenges in light of a number of different issues. And we know that the last election was one that had historically low turnout. And so when Mr. Raisi won, he won with a very, very low turnout. And that's in part because of a wider disengagement with political life that Iranians have been sort of moving towards after there's been limited change. Now, in terms of your second question, where would this lead Iran? Well, we know in view of the political structures of the Islamic Republic of Iran that the real trajectory, the philosophical, the existential, political trajectory of the state is set not by the president, but by the supreme leader, by Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And so it's him who is really responsible for setting the future trajectory after the death of Mr. Raisi. And so it's not so much about who would succeed Mr. Raisi as president, but rather who is permitted to stand in the elections to propagate the vision put forward by Ali Khamenei.
Indeed, as you say, President Raisi was not the most powerful person in Iran. Indeed, that is Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. But Raisi was tipped, wasn't he, to be a possible successor to the supreme leader. Now, Khamenei is reported to be unwell. We know he's 85 years old. So does this untimely death now of Raisi leave some questions about the succession then in Iran for that real top job of the supreme leader?
Yeah, again, we don't know exactly how well Ali Khamenei is. There's been rumors about his ill health for years now, but we do know, as you say, he's 85, he's getting on, and that the position is the real power broker, the real essence of decision making in Iran. And so it requires a certain type of candidate, a certain type of figure to step up to that position. Mr. Raisi was being considered someone who could be groomed for that, having served as president. He was sort of embodying the very philosophy of the Islamic Republic, and that's why he was deemed to be so much of a leading candidate. But we don't know formally, we don't know officially. We know that there are a couple of others, including Ali Khamenei's son, who are perhaps rumored to be in the running. But for now, we don't know exactly who's going to be the favorite, the front runner, because Ali Khamenei himself. Ali Khamenei wasn't the front runner himself, so there's always questions to be asked.
The pictures we're showing our viewers now are the latest images we have today from Tehran, people out in the streets to mourn Raisi following his death. Overall, how do you think he'll be remembered in Iran? Was he a popular president?
Not particularly at all. His popularity wanes depending on who you ask. For some, he was the quote-unquote butcher of Tehran, given his role in the brutal repression and killing of prisoners by Iran's founding father, or set in motion by Iran's founding father, Ayatollah Khamenei. And that was enacted by Mr. Raisi in the late 1980s. And that is something that continues to be a source of anger and deep unpopularity for many in Iran, particularly in Tehran. But for others, he was a bureaucrat. He was someone who was towing the ideological line that was put in place by first Ayatollah Khamenei and now Ali Khamenei, the current supreme leader. And he was the regime's man. He was close to the IRGC. He was towing the position that the Islamic Republic was taking. And that doesn't mean he was particularly particularly popular. He wasn't particularly charismatic, but he was efficient. He was a figurehead. He was doing what was needed to be done. But now, because he's died, there will be these 5 days of mourning, and he has, as the Iranian TV has covered, ascended to martyrdom, and he's taken on this important figurehead role now.
And just a final question, also on that helicopter with the president was his foreign minister, Hussein Amir Abdullahian. What do we know about him and the gap he leaves then for that big role as the country's foreign minister?
Yeah, he was an interesting character in that he was perhaps a little bit more charismatic than Mr. Raisi. He was a little bit more outspoken, certainly far more belligerent and hostile in his rhetoric. He took a very hostile stance towards Israel. We know that was feeding into a lot of these tensions because of the discursive rhetoric and the cycles of rhetoric that were emerging in the past few weeks and months. So the foreign minister role is an important one in that it's a public-facing role, a very public, prominent position. There have been some incredibly influential foreign ministers. It's a very important political portfolio in Iran, and it's going to be important to get it right, but to get the right person to work towards a more peaceful engagement with the region, not to contribute to the burgeoning hostilities that we've been seeing in recent months.
Simon Mabon, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.